Most extreme demons are horrible, which begs the question, why don't creators just make good extreme demon gameplay? However, this would be a very short video if this was the main point, because the answer is simply that most extreme demon creators are lazy. A more helpful question for us to ask is, what separates good extreme demon gameplay from bad extreme demon gameplay? There are several different categories that we'll explore to make this video. But first, we should dive into the unique problems that each game mode faces, starting with cube gameplay. Cube gameplay has a simple pitfall that people still fall into today. I'll call this problem a lack of variety. This is basically when a creator creates repetitive timing loops. Why does this happen? It's usually a result of a lack of imagination of what difficult gameplay is, or a byproduct at least of going for overly simple gameplay. Examples of this are Michigan's part in Bloodbath, certain parts of Acropolis, some buffed versions of old Robtop levels, etc. The way to solve this is actually pretty simple. Just throw in different orbs, portals, slopes, structures, and much more. The game has given you all of the tools you need to do something interesting. A specific problem that ship gameplay has, that is exacerbated by difficulty, is relying on straight fly. This problem is so common that I don't even have to list any examples for you to know what I'm talking about. Surprisingly, I'd say the level that popularized it, Bloodbath, actually doesn't have this problem despite the amount of straight fly in it. So why do creators, over a decade after the verification of Bloodbath, still struggle with this? Well, I don't think people are open-minded enough about what exactly ship gameplay can be. Most people only really understand control gameplay to be the function of the ship. And while that is its primary purpose, the ship can also utilize timings, speed changes, and slopes, among other things. Bloodbath utilizes its ship gameplay phenomenally, but it doesn't have great ball gameplay. This level actually has two mistakes that I would like to go over. In Weo's part, the click pattern almost feels like mindless spamming. Even though I'm not saying it technically is, gameplay in general should not feel like this. The second mistake is seen in Vermilion's part, and again in Michigan's part. Neither of these parts have very interesting gameplay. There is no variety whatsoever. I think by now you can see a pattern that I'm connecting. Gameplay, in general, should not lack variety and give you slow filler difficulty. I say this as someone who specializes in and enjoys timings-based gameplay, because it's not just these game modes I'm criticizing. This is the same principle that I have for ship gameplay. So does this mean that all game modes have essentially the same principles in theory? Well, let's take a look at some others. UFO, Spider, and Wave all have places where spam is acceptable, just as straight fly and slow timings have their places. However, moderation is key. This is honestly one of the best principles of gameplay you can learn. Too much repetition, too much of a gimmick, too much of anything can ruin your experience with a level. Rule 1 of gameplay is to continually introduce interesting gameplay or reintroduce the level's previous gimmicks, but in a way that it is transformed. This seems simple and straightforward, but there is a way to do this wrong as well if you don't have other rules. Let me start with the simplest rule. Unless your level has a distinguished memory part that fits in some way, or is a memory level itself, your gameplay should be visible to the player around when its X value reaches the right edge of the screen. This ensures that the player is not blindsided by information they were not able to gather. Rule 2 of gameplay is to give the player enough information to make their failure their fault. This also would include avoiding used fixed hitboxes or obstacles that blend in with the decoration. Those are the easiest rules, but these next ones can be tricky. The next topic we're going to discuss is balancing. A lot of players will tell you that a level's difficulty should look like a bell curve. This means the hardest parts are in the middle, and the easiest parts are at the start and finish. This can work for a lot of different levels. So how is this tricky? Well, what if the level is 6 minutes long? Every time you die from 0, it feels like you're waiting another 2 minutes just to get to playing the level. It's almost like watching a 2-minute cutscene every time you die to the boss. This is actually why a lot of people have an issue with Biru as well. Biru notoriously has an incredibly easy first half and gets harder in the second half, so it just feels like you're watching like a 3-minute cutscene, or however long half of Biru is. This is also why I'm highly against levels with intro screens or drawn out auto sections. You also need to think about balancing when choosing your song and which parts of it to use. This used to be a lot harder before 2.2, but now you really have no excuse since you can cut up the song and rearrange it however you like. The intensity and the way your level portrays the song should be matched by your balance. That is not my third rule of gameplay though. Balancing is not what the rule is entirely about really, and if you've been paying attention you might know what I'm talking about. For most levels, the fun and intriguing parts are fast or upbeat. However, there are plenty of great levels, even the greatest levels, that have no fast or upbeat parts. A great example of this is the level Lonely Travel. This level does not have any intense parts to spice things up. Its gameplay solely revolves around innovation after innovation. Gimmick after gimmick is used, with no part spared anything interesting. If the gameplay is not interesting, the decoration is groundbreaking. Funny Game weaves the gameplay into every part of this level's progression. Not every level needs to have crazy gimmicks to be interesting, but simply switching things up to symbolize a change of energy is what is happening. Bloodlust is a perfect example of this. The style of gameplay changes when you get to the extension, and it builds tension perfectly. Then TMN's part is not particularly difficult compared to the rest of the level, but it is tedious enough to let your nerves fight against you as the song reaches its finale. The final triple spike works as a perfect send-off, mirroring its predecessor's ending. So rule 3 of gameplay is to use it as a paintbrush for your progression, whether to build intensity through difficulty and balancing, or intrigue through gimmicks, or to allow you to soak in the nerve-wracking final moments of beating a hard level. I could dive into a bunch of do's and don'ts about what specific click patterns you should use or shouldn't use, but honestly, if you're not being lazy, it should be pretty easy to discern a lot of the smaller things. And those things, if messed up, will not ruin your level. If I were to add the rule 4 into the script, it would also be just to continue practicing gameplay and seeing what you and other people enjoy that you make. Practice is the best tool you can use to get better at anything. Besides, do you think if I bombarded you with a ton of nitpicks and minor details that you would remember much of anything I taught you? That's why I'm wrapping up the video right now.